The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi there, everyone. I am Ian Ugarte.
And I'm Christine Manning.
And we have joined you tonight, and you've joined us tonight, so that we can talk about a few things. We are from a company called Small is the New Big. We have written a book called Small is the New Big. Health, wealth, love, and happiness. And our main message is that when we're talking about life in general, that small incremental changes are the things that make you get to a bigger change in life. And so many of us have been, and we were in the past, looking for that massive change in our life by looking at that, and especially me, Christine, not so much, but especially me, but taking all of what I had and put it into one risky situation in every component of my life and hoping that it was going to turn out. And tonight, what we're going to take you through is a position of a event that we're calling the whole event, which is based around the wealth, the health, opportunity, the love and evolution, and our story over many years and how that can work for you. So what we're going to talk about tonight is a number of different things. The first thing is going to be a big component of tonight's webinar, and that's how your attitudes and motivations dictate what you do. So we all know as a 6-year-old that we're ingrained with 80% of our thought beliefs, and in that 80%, how you're acting and how you motivate and the attitudes you take to every decision you make is actually already ingrained in you. Now, they are changeable. Things people believe, and some studies believe, that you are set in your pigeonhole and that you can't change outside of that. And what we've learned over the last 20-something years in business is that you can change. You can do many things. So the thing that we're also going to talk about tonight is our experience and how our failures and our successes, and generally the failures, have got us to the point of today. Now, one thing for sure is that people that learn off their failures the first time are smart. People that learn off someone else's failures are actually geniuses, and that's what we're going to talk to you about tonight. And we're going to take you through a scientific study that has gone through and based against the Australian median the 5 failure patterns in business that you should avoid, so that you can achieve not just in business, but you can achieve success in business and your life. We're going to talk about the balance of how our health, wealth, and love and happiness really comes as incremental steps in all areas of our life. We can't concentrate, and we've done it before, just on one area and expect that everything runs smoothly, because as soon as you let one area of your life down, then all of the wealth disappears, or your health starts to go. Now, what's the use of having all the wealth in the world if you can't actually get out of bed in the morning? Or something, a lot of people spend a lot of money trying to get wealthy, only to find out that their health deteriorates and all the money in the world can't help you there. So that's what we're going to talk about. That's another point. And then at the end, we want to give you a special offer. Now, you've given up time and you've traveled possibly distances through traffic and whatever to get to sit in front and watch us and talk to us, because you can get onto the chat line right now and go through a component of what we're doing. And you deserve, for the fact that you've sat here and gone beyond, what would be most people's comfortable, which is watching TV probably tonight, and getting to the front end of what we're really here for, and that is really to see change. So just a brief on myself. I'm a plumber and builder, and I do have a degree in teaching. And so I've been a public speaker for about 7 or 8 years now. And the thing that gets me out, I'm very fortunate that I found my passion and my why. And it was only a few years ago that it came to fruition for me. And it's teaching, and it's watching people change. So what gets me out of bed every morning is the ability to watch someone else change. And if I have something to do with it, it's absolute bonus. So if tonight, for whatever reason, you feel that an aha moment has happened for you, that ticks my box. So put it in the chat line there, and I'd be happy to respond to it as well. Christine, what are you?
So I come from a background of accounting, and also over the years, with having had 4 children, in that time studied a lot on natural therapies and eating healthy.
Yep, and running our businesses, running our whole life, and hence the reason behind the whole. So when we're looking at tonight and the business failures and successes that you will be achieved if you know what not to do, then what it's based on is a 20-year study over the most successful people in Australia, both in business who stayed in business and exited their businesses, and in property and on property entrepreneurial study as well, and the makeup of who they are. So the one thing that you can determine is that with all successful people and the 20-year study that's been done on them, they have the unique motivations, they have unique attitudes in how they operate. And one thing for certain also is they look beyond blind spots. So what we're going to make you aware of tonight is 5 blind spots that you might say, hey, like that's something that I had never consciously been aware of. Now, you may be unconsciously aware of it, but what we're going to do is bring it to the front. Let's talk about us a little bit more.
Okay, so here's a nice photo. This is Ian and 3 of our 4 daughters. One of them has already moved out of home. And you'll see...
Happily moved out of home.
Yes, she's old enough. She's grown up. And you can see here some of the businesses that we have started, some of the 23 businesses that we have started. Included in there, you'll see the organic shop, which we both had together. There's Colon Care Centre, where Ian was doing colonics. We've got Aquaclaris.
Yep, so we have a wastewater company.
Recycling, plumbing, barges.
Houseboats. You can see a toilet there, Flash in the Pan, which was a company that was started because we wanted to put fish tanks into PC items, is what they call them, prime cost items in bathrooms. And obviously that never took off, simply for the fact that there probably wasn't a big demand for it. And when we look at the 23 businesses that are up there in front of you right now, probably only about 5 years ago did we discover the success because of the scientific tool that we're going to base around the attitudes and motivations of who we were as business partners that has really made our last few businesses very successful. And up to that point in time, when we look at those 23, probably out of the 23, maybe 10 or so we would have started. The others we would have discarded. So basically more than 50% of the businesses we had started, we would not actually go ahead and start today because of what we know now. And it's really important to give you an understanding around a basis of who we are and where we've come from, that success over time. Now, I thought by starting 10 businesses, one of them at some point would come off. Hopefully it was the first one, but maybe the 10th one. And at 16, I started to wonder, maybe we had the formula wrong.
That's right. So we looked elsewhere to try and find how do we get the right formula. And that's where we discovered these things which we're going to show you tonight. This is only the tip of the iceberg.
Yep. And so we're going to show you 5 of the 48 possible motivations and attitudes that will make a difference to you in your life, in your partnerships and relationships, in how you look at the opportunities that come up for you, how you look at business, and more importantly, how you look at your health. And because if you have your health, doesn't matter how much money you have, it's not going to allow you to, it didn't allow Kerry Packer to succeed in his health life. So let's think about what that means. So when it comes to starting business or life, you've got the what. Now, the what is, what am I going to do? Am I going to do a colonic business, a barge business? Am I going to do plumbing, development, property? We've become very successful in property because of what we do. The other part of the question is the why. Now, why is it that you're doing it? Now, I know a lot of people come up with the why, and the why is usually because I want to be rich, right? And I heard a great quote many years ago, and rich people have a lot of money and wealthy people have a lot of time to spend it. So the difference between rich and wealthy is really going to be most people's why. And when you say wealthy, it is what is it that you want to do every morning? Most people's why in its first instant is, I just don't want to have to turn up to a job. And a job is an acronym for just over broke. Just enough money for you to be able to set yourself up for the week and hopefully have some savings so that you could go away on holidays when they give you the 4 weeks pay. Now, for me, the why for most people, again, is simply being able to get up in the morning and choose what you want to do and how you want to do it. And that's the most important thing. You'll notice that I'm doing a lot of talking. That's because I love talking. Christine's here and she'll be helping us through the 5. That's where key strategy of Christine is to bring you into the understanding of the why. Now, the most important part is what we call the entrepreneurial spirit. Entrepreneurial spirit is the how component of where we work towards. Because a lot of people understand the what they do in their business, in their life, in their health, and also understand the why. Why do I want to do it? I want to be healthy so I can be around my family, because I can be around more loved ones. I can be more successful. I can help other people. And the thing is that the what and the why are the easy. The how component is really the hardest part. Now, when you nail your why, the how comes along fairly easy. So the how and the why are probably the two harder ones. The why will come along easy. The how is the most important of what you're going to have to do. So the entrepreneurial spirit is what we talk about, the unique motivations and attitudes and styles of a property business owner, of a successful person in any streams of life. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're running a property business, a normal business, whether you're looking at your health or your love or your happiness, it doesn't really matter. The key motivations, attitudes, and styles that you operate out of are the ones that get you that place. Now, all entrepreneurs, now think about most successful entrepreneurs. Now, remove Donald Trump and have a look at what they look like, how they act, what type of people they are. Very successful people are people that Australians particularly look up to. Now, I know Richard Branson isn't Australian. The way he operates and the way he works comes truly from his entrepreneurial spirit. Now, most people think that entrepreneurial spirit is something that cannot be taught. And it is something that can be taught. You're actually not born an entrepreneur, you are learnt to be an entrepreneur. And this is what we're going to talk about tonight. So let's move on and talk about the first thing that you understand around what we call the work attitudes and motivations. So you can see here that there is 48. You can count them all up if you want in your time. There's 48 different motivations going from 12 o'clock through back around to 12 o'clock. Now, when you look up this side at 1 o'clock and moving down the clock ladder, we've got numbers that are in the positive. So they are positive according to the mean of Australia. So on the average of Australia, 100, 0 would be the average. So you would be 100 would be extreme. And then as you work down through, you come to negative numbers on the other side. So this is the most motivated you are in an attitude or a motivation. And this is the least motivated that you are by attitude or motivation.
So the great thing about this is that it's actually your against the Australian population, not the world, not America. So it's just Australian population.
And because we act uniquely. Now, this basis of motivations can be taken to different countries. They've been based, all the studies have been based around the world. Now, I know you've probably seen something like this before and you've said, I've done one of these at work. I don't really want to pay attention to it. We've actually debriefed this particular tool to over 600 people in the last 6 years. And each and every time, for every time that someone said, I've done one of these at work, I've said, give it some time. Let's go through the debrief. And then at the end, please give me your opinion. And not once has anyone ever said, oh, no, it's the same. Every time people have said, I completely understand now. It's a completely different sort of tool that says that I'm not fixed, that I can actually change the way that I choose. And this is about flexibility. The flexibility to choose on any one occasion which motivation or attitude you'll work to according to the situation you've found yourself in. And that's something that we've used. And also, what you will find as you're going through this, if you're sitting there with your partner or you're thinking about your partner, you're saying, well, you know what? We're actually very much opposite, and opposites attract. Now, the beauty with that is for the first time, you will actually see that as an extreme positive, because up until about 5-6 years ago, before we had done this, Christine saw my weaknesses as a problem and my strengths as a problem and the opposite as also.
And the important thing to note is that they're not actually weaknesses. They're just the way
choices.
You operate. Yeah.
Absolutely. And once you start to harness the ability to be able to use those and use each other's strengths and use each other's weaknesses, because sometimes you don't want to be too strong. You actually want to be weak in some areas, depending on the task that you're doing on a daily basis. So this is what you will end up getting once you've done the questionnaire, and you'll need about half an hour to get through it. But let's talk about the 5 things you need to avoid to ensure success in business, in life, in love, in health, in wealth, and happiness, in all of those components that you do. So let's break this up into 5. And the first question.
So the first question, when you come into a situation, do you act quickly or take your time to analyse before you take action, if at all?
So we've got 2 scenarios here. So when you come into a situation, so think about where you are right now and the last time you had to make a decision. Do you act quickly? Do you take time to analyse it before you take action, or do you even
Make
worry
up your mind straight away
and just get straight in? So we've got two motivations that will come up for you here. And the first motivation will be your action direction is how they're based. And the first one is initiation. And the other side of the spectrum is reflection. So where is your flexibility in these two components? So the first one's initiation.
And that's all about making decisions quickly and easily.
All right, so initiation is right now I've got a decision to make. I have to make that decision. And as soon as I get that decision done, I'm in and doing it. I'm not even thinking about the repercussions of what's down the line. I need to make my decision now. And as soon as I made my decision, I'm into whatever I need to do to move that and progress it forward. On the opposite side, we've got reflection.
Reflection, so that's the complete opposite. If you're high in reflection, it's someone who takes a long time to make decisions, or perhaps not at all. And in the property game, it's called analysis paralysis, where you just analyse for so long you actually never make a decision.
Now, some of you may know someone like this, and an initiator, you'll know someone like that. There's someone that just steps straight in. Also, you might know someone with reflection. So someone with reflection, you will get to the point where you go, oh, for God's sake, will you just make a decision? So I'm talking about extremes here. So a high initiator would have a score of 100 plus, and a high reflection person would have a score of 100 plus. So you would be starting to say, okay, look, can you just make a decision? I just need you to make a decision. Now, some of you are probably sitting there going, my partner is exactly that. So when we're talking about the failure pattern in here, big drum roll at home, the failure pattern is?
Lack of reflection.
So your lack of reflection means that in any point in time, if you want to be successful in business and in life, you essentially have to take a small step back and go, I don't want to initiate straight away. I have to think about what's going to come out from that and then take action. So think about what's going to happen. Think about the options that are going to come up for you and the alternatives, which we'll get to very soon. And then from that, you say, okay, I think this is the decision I need to make. Your decision, if you take on reflection and you're a high initiator, the decision between initiating something straight away and sitting back and taking reflection, you'll probably end up making a different type of decision in that place.
So, I mean, the ideal is to have some sort of balance between your initiation and reflection. So if you have high on both ends, I mean, that
gives you flexibility. That's a great flexibility tool to say that I have choices. But if you're too high on reflection or too high initiation, you'll have inflexibility, or too low.
High initiation and medium reflection is still good, but you just need, what we're saying is you need some form of reflection so that you can sit back, do your numbers, do your research, ask questions, all of that stuff.
So let's go on to failure pattern number 2.
Okay, we've got a question. How do you know you have done a good job? Do you just know, or do you need to check with others?
Okay, so when you're coming in here, this is more about the type of person that would go out and ask around a decision that needs to be made. They want feedback. So in these two motivations and two opposite ends of the scale, we've got an external referencing style and an internal referencing style. So, Christine.
Do you feel at a loss if there's no one to bounce your ideas off? Or bounce your decisions off if you feel at a loss if there's no one there for that, or someone else to give you opinion. That's actually
so when you're looking at
externally referenced someone. If you can't make the decision for yourself.
Yeah. So if you're an externally referenced person, you are someone who will take on board, especially in the high scores. You will take someone's opinion and then make it your own, because you need their feedback. You need their input into what you're doing.
Yeah, so you're basically taking everything from outside and using that for your decision.
Internally referenced people?
Is you don't need to seek outside reference because you already know the answer.
So you're highly motivated by your own opinion, essentially. And so again, think about this. Now, we've mentored thousands of students, over 600, close to 700 students privately, one-on-one. And when we say students, we say people that are requiring coaching and mentoring. And with each one of them, this is a really important score that we look at, essentially because I need to know that as a teacher and us as mentors, that whatever I say can be taken on board. Now, if I work with someone that has a high internal referencing, so positive of 50 plus, and an external referencing that is 0 or lower, I know it's going to be a very difficult task for me to be able to get a message across, and that highly internally referenced person taking that on board as an opinion because they don't require any feedback. That's their motivation. You can also say that someone that's externally referenced is requiring and mix that in with what we previously said about the analysis paralysis, then they can get stuck in circles going round and round. But let's talk about what the failure pattern is here. And the failure pattern number 2 is
lack of advice and feedback. So we all know making our own opinions and decisions is a wonderful thing, but when you want to be successful in business and life, you still need to seek feedback and advice from external sources, like, for example, experts,
consultants, mentors, coaches.
Because we can't know everything.
No, absolutely not. And so when you look at a business, when a business is starting, and this is quite often something that as a mentor we get to be able to work with students and clients, and they come to us with new business ideas. And we've run them through this process of going, okay, so you started a new business. My first question is always, what's your point of difference? And if they say to me, quality, I go, that's not a point of difference because there's lots of people out there that offer quality. I want to know your point of difference between something else in the market that you're competing against. And so essentially, let's say that you had Amazon and someone wanted to come along and create a factory warehouse that stocks items and sends them out. I'd say to you, what's your point of difference? And they'd say, oh, we've got good quality. And I go, no, that's not your point of difference because Amazon does exactly the same thing. And they've got quality coming out and they deliver packages. Obviously, that's why they're successful. So what's your point of difference? So unless you can do something different to Amazon, for me, I would be saying to most of the clients that we work with, you don't have a point of difference. My external referencing system says, go away, come back to me with something, and then you can have some advice and feedback and move into something else. You smiled then.
It's because I think you're
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, stop it. Okay, next question.
What is the relationship between these boxes as they come up? You can see where let me see. I can see that they're all rectangles and I can see that they're all blue.
Okay, so firstly say, all rectangles, all blue. Yeah.
And I also see that they're chalky outline.
Chalky outline.
And I can see that there is one rectangle bigger than the others.
Okay, one rectangle bigger than the others. So let's work on that because I've got some of my own. Now in these here, what we're looking for is sameness or difference. Now in each one of those, Christine said they're all blue. That's sameness, they're all the same. They're all rectangular. Rectangular, they're all the same. You said they're all chalky. That's all the same. She then said one is bigger and the other two are smaller. So that's actually sameness. So it's difference. No, that's difference because one is different, but the other two are the same. So that's sameness and difference. I would say that all the corners that are missing are in the opposite direction. That is completely difference. I would say that the way that I look at that, it looks like a smiley face. Okay, so difference. And there's a little bit of sameness in there because the eyes would be in there. I would be saying that all the lines that I can see are all different in thicknesses. So I'm saying, although they're all different, they are lines, but thicknesses. So they're all different. So when we look at the relationship between these two boxes, we're looking at two different filters. And the relationship filter between these two, as I've already said, is difference and sameness. So someone who's motivated for difference, what does that mean?
Well, their level of energy is for radical change and things that are new, different and unique.
Now, most of you would know someone whose motivation for difference when you're at a dinner party. And you're at a dinner party and it doesn't matter what is said around the table. everyone's having a great time, the person at the end of the table will always have a difference of opinion. Even if they agree with you, they will want to bring up something different. Okay, and when you sort for difference, that's the type of person. So you may have friends, you might have acquaintances, you might have a partner that's always looking at the opposite end of the scale. Now, when you're looking at the opposite end of the scale for difference, we've got sameness.
So that's someone who's always looking for keeping things the same. They like routine and consistency, things like that.
Yeah, so sameness is being able to do the same thing over and over again for being able. So you might know someone for sameness that it doesn't matter what you say in a conversation, they will agree with you. They don't want to disagree with you. Now, when you're looking at these two different filters in other areas of your life, people who sort for difference are people that will constantly change jobs and will always have different partners, change friends around, will do a hobby differently all the time.
As you can see where Ian pointed out with the rectangle, he is high on difference.
So I sort for difference.
Which explains the 23 businesses
yes,
as well.
Always. And so I essentially stayed in a job over the last 20-something years for 18 months at a time until recent times where I've been able to stay in focus in doing the same thing for 3, 4, 5, 6 years at a time.
We've also lived in many different houses.
Changing houses all the time. Now, someone who sorts for sameness is someone who will want the same routine, who can stay in a job for 20 years. They'll get the golden handshake. They will be quite happy living in the same space. They will do the same task every day at the same time of the day. So let's look at the failure pattern when it comes to pattern number 3, failure.
And that's lack of consistency. So if there's too much difference, you won't stay with a strategy, for example, long enough to master it.
So you've made a decision and you go, this is great, I'm fine, I'm off and going. So it doesn't mean that you have to be high in sameness. It just means you need to be able to do the same thing consistently in part of what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, if that can mean just having someone in your team who will bring a bit of sameness to the party, or on the opposite scale, bring a bit of difference.
For sure. And so when you're looking at partnerships, so you can see so far through each one of these failure patterns, Christine has been high or low on one, and I've been the opposite. And when it came to difference, we're obviously opposite end of the scales as well. Now, what it came down to was, for me, my difference was actually damaging our businesses and the start of every business. Just alone by starting the business was a damage in itself. And I would lose the direction and I'd want to start something else. And it wouldn't make any sense to start something else because we hadn't had the sameness of doing the same thing. So in my job as a JOB, while we were continuing to work our way to passively get out of work so that we could assist other people, I did one thing. We worked on this, and this was for me to turn up to my job and do the same thing at the same time. So that was answer emails between a particular time of the day, answer my phone between a particular time of the day. I would do the same things as far as putting meetings in at particular times of the day. Now, by doing that over an 8-week period, I worked in a government agency, and I always, doesn't matter what job I turned up at, I always look at my job as my own business, even if I'm working for someone else. And at the time, I was working for a government body. I took 7 pay scale changes in one hit within 8 weeks of changing this one failure pattern, getting more consistent with what we did or what I did in particular on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Made a difference to our businesses.
Yeah, so I mean, we're not saying that you have to have sameness completely. It's just a low level to mid is absolutely critical so that you can get that consistency happening. And if you do happen to be very high on sameness, then it's also very important to get someone into your business that can provide that difference of thinking outside the square, so you've got some new energy happening.
Let's get on to the next question.
Okay. If you and I are going to do a project together, would you want to work out the big picture first and then the details? Would the details even be important?
Okay, so we're going out to do a project. We're looking at this project and we're saying, all right, let's look at the big picture. I can see us making this massive property portfolio and we're going to really smash it out. All we need to do is buy properties. And then I went and sat down. Would it be important? Or do I need to know the detail of, well, firstly, we need to research and then we need to do our due diligence and work on from that. So are the details important if you want to do the big picture? The two motivations that come up here are what we call the depth and the breadth component. And Christine will explain firstly what depth is.
The depth is the detailed info. That's getting right deep down into the topic and
breaking it down.
Working with all your specifics.
Into small little incremental steps and how we make that work. Now, the opposite end of the scale is breadth.
And that's the global view, the big picture view, which is what Ian provides in our situation.
So for both of us, we're opposites again in this one. And where our breadth is, so depth, the breadth is big, massive picture. Now, I am a big picture person. And when we work with clients, and we're working together with that one client, we look at it and we say, okay, I will say simply, and I'll give you an example. We might be talking about a style of business deal. And I will say, okay, well, the business deal that they want to do is this. Have a look at this, Christine. Christine will be working with spreadsheets, and we'll say, okay, Christine, they're going to do this. They're going to inject some funds at month 1, 2, and 3. They're then going to refinance and revalue at the back end of that on the business turnover, and then give me a detailed breakout of the outcome and what their daily cash flow would be after that. I will literally, because detail is not my motivation. Now, I've had the flexibility now to be able to do detail, but it's not my first choice. Big picture is my first choice. So Christine, whose first choice is detail, will go in, start punching away on the feasibility and the calculations that she's organised because she's an accountant, she's great at spreadsheets. I will literally turn sideways and look out at the trees while she's punching stuff in. Now, it might look really rude that I'm doing that, but I'm so not motivated for detail that I just want to look out at the rest of the world until the detail is done for me, and then I'll look back at the big picture results. And Christine, very similar. Now, we both have the flexibility to do both ways now, and it took us probably 3 or 4 years to work on that to get that there. So our number 4 failure pattern is
lack of scope. So I like to think of this when I explain this with the definition. Projects is no definition, sorry. Of are we there yet? Really have no
basis.
End point, yeah. So I like to think of the scope of work.
When you look at the scope of work, so let's take a builder or a project manager of any sort, whether it's building a building or whether it's doing an IT consultancy, whether it's actually building a business. There'll be a scope of works, and that is the big picture broken down into increments and all the way down to detail. So if it was a building, it would have all the building colors in it. It'll have the type of windows, who the supplier of the windows are. If it was an IT company, it would have all the logistics of every person that's involved in this project and who will be doing what tasks and what time and relevance the times the tasks have to be completed by.
That's right.
You'll have, in any business, a scope of what do we need to do, how big what's the variety that we need to do in this business, and where do we stop? Because you can get too big a picture. So someone who doesn't have a breakdown of that, who's a business entrepreneur or a life entrepreneur, which we all are, who lacks a scope or the ability to take the next incremental step, will be taking what we call the shortcut. Now, the shortcut ends up being the longer cut. We always work on the long cut. The long cut is simply getting from here, from A to Z, because you've actually mapped out the processes.
You need to know where you want to end up.
Absolutely.
Basically. You need to be clear on that.
So the next question.
When starting something new, do you like to work out all the possible options and alternate ways for doing it, or do you like to start by following a proven step-by-step procedure?
Okay, so this question is more about, are you the type of person that wants to follow a recipe or a set of instructions, or do you just put it together? Do I just grab my ingredients and throw it in and see what comes out? we have two motivations in this one here. And the two motivations that come up are alternatives and procedures. So when we talk about procedures, Christine, what does that mean?
That's the recipes that Ian's talking about, following a proven method, step-by-step system.
So someone who's high on follow procedures is usually a very good person and also high on sameness, because a procedure requires you to do the same thing continuously from 1 through to 10 or A through to Z. And you just simply follow the instructions, follow the procedure. And, what we're doing tonight is actually taking you through a set of procedures. How is it that you need to become successful? Make sure you follow these procedures. Don't follow these ones, because they're usually your blind spots.
If anyone's seen that movie about how McDonald's came about, or you even know the procedures that they put in place, which created such a successful business.
They can take a 14-year-old within 6 minutes and create the perfect burger anywhere in the country, exactly the same, because they've got procedures put in place. Now, the opposite end of the scale is alternatives.
And that's when you desire to find alternative ways, always looking for something new and different, a different way of doing everything.
So if you are high on alternatives, it's likely that you'll maybe find success once, just by chance, and then from that point on, you'll find it difficult to replicate, because you're going to try and change the set of procedures that you happen to set up, but because you sought for alternatives, you're going to do something different the next time. And someone who's high alternatives, who's will always be looking for something new. So when you go high alternatives, high difference, that's a double whammy blind spot, because you're always looking for something new. And if you do succeed, you're going to do it differently next time very quickly. So this is the two scales that you need to look at. The failure pattern
is lack of structure or procedure. So when you're first trying to find a new business, yes, alternatives are great because you're trying to find something new. But as you have developed your business, you need to have that structure and procedure happening.
Now, remember that a lot of the entrepreneurs that you can think about also will have blind spots in place here. Know that they've also employed or work alongside a co-founder that has an opposite strength that can pull them back. Now, when you look at Steve Jobs was highly, highly focused for alternatives. He was highly focused for difference. We would not be using an iPhone today if it wasn't for the fact that he was highly sorted for difference and alternatives. Now, in his procedures, he simply had co-founders that help him set up structures in the background to put forward the products that we all use on a daily basis. Now, Steve Jobs changed the way we do things in this world. Now, as an entrepreneur, that's something that you want to do, change the things, but understand that with all the blind spots in the world. Now, remember, Steve Jobs' blind spots actually got him fired from the company that he co-founded. Remember that he was ousted because his need for difference and alternatives was so high that he got voted out by the chairman and the board of directors. Now, we've got enough time tonight to be able to give you one bonus failure pattern.
Yay.
And this failure pattern was one of the massive ones that made a change for a difference for us. And when we look at this, let's look at the failure pattern.
Okay, that's the lack of money focus.
So lack of money focus, what does that mean?
So that we're not talking about love of money. We are actually talking about looking at how money comes in and how it goes out, budgets and things like that.
So when we were looking at our businesses, we were never focused on money. Now, most people say, oh, well, if I'm really focused on money. Now, you might be focusing on the lack of money, not actually on the money focus. Now, that's two different things. Now, when we say about money focus, it is,
It's working with money.
It's working with money on a monthly basis. We're doing budgets. We're actually doing financials. We're making sure that there's enough runway. So in the entrepreneurial spirit, the term runway is how much money, with the burn rate that we're burning through cash at the moment, how much money do we have before we actually run out? So when we talk about an aeroplane taking off, they need a certain length of runway to be able to take off. In your business, in your life, you need a certain amount of runway with money to be able to take off and get into the stratosphere. So when we started focusing on money, and I'll give you some prime examples, we would do in our property business, for example, we would be doing a major renovation, and we'd allowed about $70,000 to $80,000 for renovation, and they would inevitably cost us 150 plus because we had no focus on money. We were focused on the end product, but we weren't focused on the budget. And so now, for example, when we're doing a property project, I'll be down the road, I'll be looking at something, I'll be with the builder, and I'm a builder by trade too, remember, but I don't build anymore, not with these soft skin hands. I will be talking to the builder, and the builder say, you know what, I think I can do granite bench tops for this much. I'll ring Christine. I'll say, can you check the budget, Christine? We can do granite bench tops. It'll cost us another $1,200 on this project. Is there somewhere we can move with that? And Christine will look at it. She'll say, well, you know, we saved some money on building the retaining walls, and we also had some money saving by supplying our own paint because the painter didn't charge us extra. So there's enough there. Let's upgrade. Let's put it into the budget. We'll change the numbers in the painting and the retaining walls, and then we'll put it against the new granite bench tops.
So it's looking at the overall picture, not just what's in your bank account that day. Oh, yes, I can buy that because the money's there. You're looking at it over long term. What you need to buy, what you need to do to buy to continue to operate.
And what's really important, what's really important here is I don't have a high motivation to look at numbers. What I do have is a high motivation to make sure that we've got enough money in the bank account to be able to operate as smoothly and as much as we want to do. On the weekend, we booked a hotel room, we took the family down to the beach, and we sat there in a hotel room. Now, I didn't have to worry about how much money that was going to cost us. What I did focus on was have we got enough money in the account? And there's always enough money. This is the money focus is what gets you the abundance of having money in your account and working towards that. Now, if you're not great with numbers, that doesn't matter. Find someone that can do numbers. For me, I married an accountant, so I'm fortunate. You may need to employ a bookkeeper or someone or co-found something with someone or work on your daily budget just by simply working towards outcomes for your bank account. Now, you might say, well, I just want a better amount of money or a better understanding of money. Well, in Australia, you can get onto the ASIC website. If you just Google ASIC Money Smart Tracker, Money Smart Budget Planner, you can then you can put all your little figures in and it'll punch out how much you spend to how much you earn. And now you can start focusing on money. Now, once you've got that focus, you can start pinpointing and going, well, where am I spending too much money? Where am I taking, am I buying too many smashed avos? Do I need to knock that down? Am I having too many coffees because I need to knock that down? I can actually make coffee.
And nowadays, it's very easy to start getting subscriptions, and then, you end up with 20 subscriptions, and half of them you don't even use, and you don't even realize it's coming out of your credit card every month, and then it's all gets out of hand. So things like that is you've got to track them.
A good indicator of whether you're money focused is, do you know right now how much your weekly or fortnightly or yearly wage is and how much tax gets taken out? Or do you just sort of hope it turns up in the bank account? Do you check, and that's the two ends of the scale, do you check your credit card account details every day to week? Or do you never check it and just pay it? Because that'll give you your lack of money focus or your money focus. Now, we did come aboard tonight to talk about and invite you to what we call the whole event. And that's where we talk about the wealth, health, opportunity, love, and evolution of your entire life. Now, we've gone through the wealth component in a small amount of detail. Remember, we went through 5 blind spots, and we're talking about 48 different motivations and attitudes that you work through on a daily basis on every sort of decision that you make. So with that, we do have what I say is my favorite comment, my favorite quote. And this quote here is, every day given the opportunity to make a decision, take the uncomfortable option every time. Now, just think about that. You've got a choice to make. What's your uncomfortable decision to make? Now, sometimes it is when I'm jogging, for example, do I want to jog past this point? I've set out to do 10Ks. My easy option would be I could cut the corner and knock it down to 8, Or my harder decision, my uncomfortable decision is, should I run the 10? I will run the 10. Because I can tell you that no level of success has ever been achieved without some level of discomfort. My catchphrase, and Christine has adopted it, I hope, at some stage, is to get uncomfortable. And what we're talking about in the whole event is making your changes and making the steps that you do because what you choose to do is an uncomfortable option. Fear for me is a very, very, very positive word. Fear to me means you're about to make a decision that's going to get you uncomfortable. If you don't make that decision, you're going backwards. Sitting still is going backwards. We really want you to make decisions. Now, in the whole event, it's a 2-day event that will be coming up in Brisbane. It's on the 23rd and the 24th of September. Day 1 will be around the wealth component. We will be able to get you through. As soon as you join, you will be sent a link where you can go off and answer the questionnaire that will give you your 48 key motivations. You can start looking at your key motivations straight away, even before the event starts. And at the event, we will do a full 8-hour debrief of each and every one of those motivations. And we can customize this for every time that a question comes up for you. You can say, I don't agree with that. And I'll say, well, hang on, let's think about this. I want to ask you some questions. And you might say, sameness. And I'll say, well, what's your scales on your different score? And what's your scale on your alternative score? And then I might give you some examples, and your aha moments will drop in and go, oh, yeah, okay. So statistically, in these cases, it's over 99% accurate. Now, when that means 99% accurate, it might be that 1 or 2 of the motivations aren't exactly right, but the rest of them will be spot on. Now, we've been doing this now for 7 or 8 years, and every time it comes out, it's shown the change that's happened for us progression. Now, when we did Focus for Money, our Focus for Money was in negative territory, and it's now currently Christine's highest score and my second highest score. Now, when I say highest score, remember the mean of Australia is 0. Christine's score is 246 when it comes on Focus of Money. That's how big a change she's made to make sure that our businesses run really well. Then we've got day 2. And in day 2, we talk about health. Do you want to talk about health?
Wayne and I both have experience and qualifications in the health industry.
What are we going to talk about on the health section?
So we're going to talk about, we've got a visitor. We have someone coming to speak for us. It's a very long time
My actual first mentor is coming along. She taught me how to do a certain health practice, and like many things in life, you turn up to do one thing and you find out it's about something entirely different. So I turned up to do this health practice, and it was my first life-changing experience on personal development.
So it's all things that you can integrate into your own life as soon as you go home. It's nothing too major that you have to get a university degree for.
No.
It's something.
We're just going to give you an overarching experience of our health and how we run our family and our business and our self in what we put through our systems and how we maintain.
We've kept our family healthy. Having 4 daughters, they're very healthy. We've never had any great sickness in our family.
And it could be seen that when you're there during the 2 days, you say, well, that's a little bit extreme. Now, for us, we don't believe it to be extreme. We still have the weekly cheat meal. It's part of our family makeup. That on a Saturday night, we go out and we'll have pizza. Now, when we do have pizza, it will be gluten-free of some sort. Now, so we still have a component to it. Now, the other end of the thing here is that we're going to open you up to different modalities, whether it be aromatherapy, reflexology, naturopathy, homeopathy, all the different aspects about breathing and how meditation can get you to different levels. Now, when I say meditation, I'm sure the guys tonight just listen to that and it's not for me. I'm just talking about sitting still and just letting thoughts run through your head, just not on a phone, not doing anything, but just looking at nothing, or just close your eyes and sit there. People have this idea with meditation that it has to take you and you have to levitate off the ground. It's nothing like that. It's simply just a point of thinking about nothing. That's all it is.
I mean, we're pretty regular people. We adopt different practices in our life which keep us happy and healthy and strong.
So the O in whole is around opportunity, and I'm bringing along a friend of mine that I met in an occasion which most people would have thought a negative point in someone's life, but for us, both of us, it made a big difference to who we are. We met, we've been able to present together on multiple occasions. He's a high-end sportsman who retired early for certain circumstances that were beyond his control and turned his success on the field into success in business. And his story is amazing. He's very inspirational, someone that you really want to come along and listen to. And his opportunity came up in different locations. Now, one of the big opportunities that happened for him, and I'll tell you ahead of schedule, is that in a first grade game that he was playing, ran up the field and broke his jaw. Now, most people in most occasions probably would never have made a comeback, especially with the severity that he broke his jaw. But for him, that was the opportunity, considering that he couldn't actually train in an impact sport. The only thing he could do was become the fittest person in the game at the time because of the opportunity that came up in front of him. So he has a very famous quote that came up for him that he'll share with you on the stage those days. And we will be able to get you through a goal-setting process, which is simple, which will be attached to what you want to do, and we'll be able to implement that in your life. Now, L is for love.
Yeah. Ian and I have done a lot of research in the past 12 months, 18 months around.
We've been working for the last 7 years, particularly on our relationship, because one of the things that we did realize early on was that with all the businesses that we'd started, we had stopped becoming lovers and we'd become business partners. So we've been working for 7 years. Now, in the last 1 year, we've been working intimately at a completely different level.
We're going to introduce you to some of that. We'll show some practices that we do.
And don't worry, we'll be keeping our clothes on. They're simply connection practices that you can use as partners, simply just by looking at each other and having a connection, which brings us both to a new level. I had to turn away then because emotion comes out pretty quickly. And what that means for you and your spouse, for you and your future partner who you're looking for you and the people that you just associate with. Now, I'm not saying you have to have a loving relationship with every business partner that you meet or every person that you interact with on the store on a daily basis, but simply just walking up and being able to position yourself and get a view from other people of who you are by being your true self opens up connections in ways that you cannot believe. And that's something that we'll talk about during the love section. Christine and I, like she's already said, will take you through some simple practices that you can do. And E is the evolution of who you are and who ultimately you will become if you've not already become that. And if you're on your way to becoming it, getting you to the higher level. So for me, for Christine and I, we have had an evolution over the last 4 or 5 years. When we first started out, we were making the biggest amount of money that we possibly could, and that was our main driver in our installed program. Our attitudes and motivation started to change because ultimately in your evolution, all the money in the world doesn't make you happy. And I can tell you from a whole level of understanding that I do, and I openly proclaim that have and still continue to suffer from anxiety. 2 of our daughters are exactly the same. And having the empathy and the understanding of what that really is was something that drove us both to trying to find an answer. Now, I'm so fortunate that I have a group of people around me that see the key signs, and which we will open up to you, that you can help others and you can help yourself if you're in a position of anxiety to be able to get yourself to a point of happiness. Now, what's happened to me in the past, I had low lows and high highs, and everything in between was probably non-existent. What's happened now is that we've got, for me, an intermediate of what we call my daily life. My low lows don't happen anymore, but my high highs do continue. And my happiness soars in different areas. When my happiness is soaring, the people around me get affected by that in a positive way. When other people around me are happy, I get affected in a positive way. So we want to make sure that your evolution ultimately is about making you and the people around you happier and taking them to the next level as well. So when we talk about the whole event, we've got the whole life experience. We're going to break this down into different components so you can see the value that comes from being part of this event and taking your opportunity. We'll take what we've already discussed when you want to come aboard tonight and you do join up tonight, your working attitude motivator questionnaire. Now, that'll be a time where you'll have to sit down. You'll have to have a minimum of half an hour free for you to be able to answer that questionnaire.
So this is what gets sent to you as soon as you've registered and
you'll be able to complete it and you will get your results immediately as well. And you can start looking through these motivations. Now, remember, this is not a good or bad. This is simply how flexible you are. There is no such thing as good and bad when you're talking about your work attitudes and motivations. So when you answer this, you have to answer this as if you're already a successful whatever. Successful in love, successful in health, successful in business, whatever business that you choose. Answer the question so that you already are in that place. And if you're not sure how to answer it that way, it doesn't really matter because your motivations and your attitude right now won't change much depending on how you think about it or how you actually really are. Doing that alone will be $199. We will also debrief you over day one on that work attitude and motivation scientific study. And that debrief is valued at $999. And you'll be getting that included in this program. We'll also take you through a goal-setting masterclass with my mate Billy and with Christine and I, and take you through. Now, for someone in the audience, or some of you, we'll be taking you through publicly. If that's what you want to do, don't worry. I'm not one of those people that pushes people out in front of a bunch of people, that, especially when they don't want to, and take you through that process of being able to correctly and properly set goals. The Western world has no idea on how to set goals properly. You know, they talk about the SMART process and all that sort of stuff, but really when you're setting goals, you really have some key incremental steps that you need to change and make towards getting that goal set. So that value at $698. You've got the health and fitness masterclass. That's where we'll take you through all the different understanding of what the different modalities that are available to you and how the simplest of things can make a massive change and difference to what you do. Now, we're not talking about making you Arnold Schwarzenegger. We're simply saying that from your current position, for you to maintain success in other areas of your life, you need some form of health and fitness in doing what you do. Now, whether that means walking up the hill once a day or running marathons like I do, that doesn't really matter. As long as you're doing something, because there's chemicals in your body that need to run around so that it can have a key chain activation to get release of, we'll certainly talk about something called oxytocin on that day and how that gets released in your body. That part of the weekend is valued at $419. We've got the Love and Relationship Masterclass. That's where we will take you through the exercises. We will take you through a blow-by-blow description of a 3-day masterclass that we were involved in over in the US that had some amazing outcomes for Christine and I particularly. And we will take you through what that means. We will have some interesting information about how you can make the change and differences. That value there is $499. How to evolve in your whole life. So that is, what's the evolution component? What steps do you need to take? Who are the masters at this? How do you use the key incremental steps to change, who ultimately, firstly, understand your passion and then initiate that so that you can get to a higher level of life. We'll have different ways of being able to measure your evolution. And you will be able to say, you know what, I fit into that category. I can see how from 5 years ago I've evolved and I can see where I want to get to. That alone is also worth $599. Now, the total price of this package is $3,493. Now, that's just under $3,500 if you wanted to take that opportunity. Now, in the near future, this is our premier event. This is our first event. It will be an intimate event with a small amount of people. In the future, the event will be much larger. We'll be adding a bonus here that if you want to come along and you do want to be part of this, we will give you on the day that you turn up a copy of our book so that you can take the small incremental changes to find out that smaller is the new big in your health, wealth, love, and happiness. So that's the first bonus that we're going to offer you tonight. This price here is $997 will be the price once you want to come along in the future. You've taken the time tonight to join onto the webinar, and for a once only, because this is our premier event, we're going to offer this to you for $598 per person. So if you can come along with your partner, that's absolutely fantastic. Now, a lot of people ask, Christine, do I need to bring my partner?
No, you don't need to bring your partner. It's also very suited to single people if you don't have a partner at all. It's all very relevant and very helpful.
And it also allow you to understand a future partner if you want them and bring them on. Everyone,
especially the Love and Relationship Masterclass, you can perhaps pick up a few tips on how to bring the right partner to you.
We will be able to show you tools and techniques for being able to join with your future partner, regardless, and I'm going to say this on a very chauvinistic level, regardless of what you look like, what they look like, you will be able to create connection with that person to bring you and them closer together so that you can have a longer lasting, fulfilling relationship. Now, and I don't say that lightly, I mean that. You can see that I've obviously pulled a chick way above what I'm supposed to be taking out, but she's still with me because of the connection we have. Is that right? Absolutely. So understand that that's what we're talking about, that you can understand that if you have a partner, fabulous, you'll be able to work with that and grow closer together. If you do not have a partner, then that's fine. You'll be able to understand what's coming up for you. Now, the weekend is the 23rd and 24th of September, 2017. Just do the wholeevent.com.au. Do not do the last bit. That won't make any sense to anyone. It will be going up in the near future. So understand that it will be going up. It's $598. Here's a couple of people that have been through what we call the whole life. And Simon has said our family has been through nothing short of transformation and has been a revelation. We have overhauled our lives in a few short weeks. How we feel today is unrecognizable from where we were. Now, this is
Lisa.
Yeah.
Has said, we have proved to ourselves that this philosophy is real, it works. A smaller, simpler, community-focused approach leads to such an enriched life.
Now, these are families that were essentially not relating well. And we know what that's like because that's where we were. We're essentially a family that was just doing what we're doing. And Australia in general has actually fallen into this scenario where we just do what we do. But these two here will show you, and clearly, and they'll actually be at the event as well. You can talk to them personally, and they can take you through the small changes that they made in their health and how they started to look at their family components and their connection to bring each other out of where they were and how they got to, how they relate to their family, how their kids' anxiety started to drop off. The children are fantastic, beautiful children, and it's just amazing. Even from diminished amount of sleep to increased sleep and fulfilling sleep. Simon just finished a half triathlon yesterday. It was amazing to watch. So the first bonus is that you'll get the Small is the New Big book. That will be given to you on the day when you turn up. And if you can't make the date and you want to take up the premier event, you can take it up for $598. I know it says $500. That's actually a mistake on the screen there. But you do have to pay tonight if you want to take it up for $598. Just go to thewholeevent.com.au and that will help you through that process. So remember, you'll get the book and you'll be able to turn up at the event for $598. So again, let's look at this. You'll have your whole life experience. You'll have the work and attitude motivator questionnaire for $199. You'll get the entrepreneurial debrief for $999. The goal setting masterclass for $698. You'll have the health and fitness masterclass for $499. You'll have the love and relationship masterclass for $499. The how to evolve in your whole life, and that's for just under $3,500 worth of value. But of course, as you already know, you'll be getting that for $598. It will be outvalued at $997 if you don't want to take up this offer and pay for it into the future, and it doesn't matter where you're in the country. You can take on the offer tonight at $598 per person. Now, some people say to me all the time, realize, should I be doing this? And I say to them, well, listen, look at what you do. And by joining this, is this going to be an asset to you or a liability? Now, going out and spending $598, now I just happened to Google $598 recently, and it came up with a whole set of dresses. Now, that's a nice dress that you could be paying for $5.98, but is that an asset to you or is that a liability? You might say, oh, well, I'll meet the perfect man. Well, you won't. You might meet the perfect man, but if you don't want to come along to the whole event, you won't be able to keep him. So for me, I just simply say, is that good or not? So for $5.98, is this an asset to you? Well, I can absolutely guarantee you that the $5.98 is worth its value, because from this point forward, what one thing learnt will be enough. But we're going to be learning and we're going to be teaching you an amazing amount of stuff on the weekend. Now, you might say, I'm not sure that I really want to earn that much and I don't know how much I want to earn. Well, we're going to reset what your beliefs can be. We're going to reset to say that you can actually get bigger than what you really imagine you think you can be. We're going to get you to bigger than what you already are. If you're already on your way up, we're going to get you to a higher place. Now, you might already say, well, I've started working on my personal development. Great. If you've worked on your personal development already, we can get you to the next place. You might say, well, I'm high in failure. I've failed so many times. Well, so did we. Thankfully, we did, because we wouldn't be here talking to you today. All our successes come from failures. So learn from our failures and stop having your own failures, and you can get there. So
we had the right guidance. We used this work and attitude motivator questionnaire to help us move to the next level. So.
A lot of people say, you know what, I don't really want to be really wealthy. I don't want to have a lot of money. And that's fine. That's okay. But that's probably because your parents or your thought process say that rich people aren't good people. And I can guarantee you that there's a lot of rich people that aren't good people. But there's also a lot of people without money that aren't good people either. What we want to do is reset the framework around how money can be a good motivator for you to do good things in this world. I know for us, it's made a big difference to be able to affect other people's lives. And there's nothing more fulfilling, I can tell you, to get the aha moments, to get someone moving. And it really ticks my box. Ticks yours? Absolutely. So that's the difference. So, and one thing that we've realized with all the people that we've worked with over the years is that there's action takers and there's people that sit on the fence. Now, we do need initiators. Now, remember, initiation was something that you needed, and you needed some component of being able to have reflection. So have some reflection, but we're looking for action takers, people that can actually take what we're telling them in a different context to what they've normally heard it before and move them to the next level so that they get bigger and better at what they do. So you can't have money and not like money. It just is a fact that our whole world is based around the dollar, or Bitcoin if you want to take it nowadays. So the end result is, if we can teach you how to focus on money in a different way so that you're motivated to help others like you are already motivated, then that can make a big difference to you. And we're handholders. We love taking people through the process. The goal setting masterclass alone will take you to a new level that you've never been before. And if you've never set a goal before and you say, I don't need to set goals, I'm essentially saying on that one session, that's going to take you to somewhere you've never been. I can tell you that you can sign up for the $5.98. It's like $11 a week that you're going to be giving up for this year to be able to make a massive change into the future. So $11 a week, think about what that means. How many smashed avos of disposable income do you have to give up? And I know you're not allowed to say smashed avos anymore. So how about a avocado sliced up and squished onto bread? How many of those do you have to give up paying for to actually pay for one of these? Now, for some of them, it's $22 I saw recently for one smashed avo meal at a breakfast table in a coffee shop. So think about what you're spending your disposable income on and think about how you can divert it away. Now, you might say, you know what, I'm going to give up 3 coffees a week for the next year. Firstly, that's going to help your health because we don't drink caffeine. And secondly, that's going to pay for the amount of money that you're talking about tonight, about coming aboard and joining and being in the place of where we are right now. Now, Christine and I, are we anything special?
No, definitely not.
We're nothing special. We're the same as you. We're the same as the people down the road. Now, if you're in a position where you're saying, you know what, everyone has a luck. Ian and Christine had a whole bunch of luck to get where they were. No, we didn't. We just simply put together all the things that we've learnt to make the whole life experience to get where we are today. Now, am I losing my hair slowly? I don't have a choice in that. But it doesn't make, and it makes me the same as everyone else is losing their hair. Are we any different in what we do in our daily life? Absolutely not. We still have a family. I still suffer from anxiety. Christine still does what she does, her gardening and cooking, her art. That's what ultimately we all want to achieve. And all you need to do is instigate the things that we're going to show you, and we will show you that you can, from the base that you are, that if you're not anything special, just like Christine and I, you can gain success much more than what you're doing. So by spending $5.98, your multiplier factor of what that's going to do in your life by looking at your bank figure alone is going to be huge. But looking at the rest of your life, if you can spend $598 and find a way to increase your health so that you don't have to spend $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 in the future when you get sick, I would say $598 is worth its money. So we're going to open it up to take questions now. Remember, you'll get the Work and Attitude Motivator questionnaire. That's $199. You'll get the Entrepreneurial Debrief for $9.99. You'll get your Goal Setting Masterclass at $6.98. Your Health and Fitness at $4.98. Your Love and Relationship Masterclass for $4.99. How to Evolve in Your Whole Life for $5.99. And this will be going to the public in the future at $9.97. You've come along tonight for our premier event, our first time event, which we've run for the whole life experience in a public audience rather than working one-on-one with people for $598. Now, normally when we work one-on-one with someone, it'll be $15,000 it would normally cost. We've opened this up because we want the ability of everyone to be able to access at a reasonable price of $598, and it's your time to be able to get there. So go to thewholeevent.com.au, take on there, click on the register, take yourself through to the payment. We'll take you, and within the next few days, we will process that payment and send you out your key questionnaire so that you can start asking questionnaires. We'll go to questions now, and they can see some in the chat box. You'd like to say anything else before we keep on with the questions?
Yes. I mean, for me, I'm always looking for something to improve my life, I suppose you would say. I always looking for the next step, and something like this really fits that box, because it's just, you want to, what do you want from your life? You want happiness, you want peace, you want fulfillment, and it's just teaching yourself how to get there, really. We want to teach you how to get there for yourself.
Think about this. If currently right now you might be single, okay? Now I know that some of you got partners. You might be single and you're thinking, you know what? I want to get the perfect partner. Now we've worked with clients in the past where we've worked through the Goal Setting Masterclass and the Love and Relationship section and narrowed down exactly the partner that they want. One of them recently met and has now had a baby to the person that she could not have met ever before if she hadn't gone through the masterclass to do that. We also had that's in Sydney, Melbourne, another one who could not find a partner or keep a partner. She thought she was destined at the age of 40 to be alone forever as a single person, a high achiever in her job, but her lack of balance in other areas of her life couldn't allow her to find a relationship that was long-lasting. Now, all of a sudden,
all you see on a Facebook page is just completely
smitten, like absolutely smitten. And amazing for us to see how someone balances their life out. And now, not only was she going well in her job, what she did on a daily basis, but all of a sudden she's got a partner which she absolutely adores. Her health has started to improve. Absolutely amazing changes for those people. So if I could just say to you one thing, what if I could say to you, and this may sound really, really confronting. You might be in a relationship right now where you're thinking, you know what, it's the end. Now, Christine and I got to the end of our relationship 4 times. And if I could have paid $598 one of those 4 times to get us to where we are today, I would have taken that in a second. Because ultimately, when you think about people living together and then breaking up, what is the cost of that to you? Firstly, in the emotional takeoff of what that is. And secondly, what is it going to cost you financially in lawyers, even in with agreements, which way you go and what directions you go into. So just think about the small amount that we're talking about with a 598 and how that can get you to a new level completely and totally. And how you can just evolve to be such a bigger, beautiful person. You, after this event, you will be stopped by friends and family and say, you know what, there's something different about you and I don't know what it is. And that for us, could not be that could not tick our box any further. And I can tell you, when they say that to you, you will simply look at them and smile. And you'll know internally that something's happened. Now, you can't see it, but those small incremental changes will make over those 2 days will make a big difference to what you are and who you are. So questions for everyone there, we'll happily answer them. We'll just turn off our webcam so that we can concentrate on answering those questions, and we'll go through them now.